This episode of Now This Is Lit is brought to you by Audible. Check the link in the description to get your first Star Wars audiobook free. Everyone loves free things. Click that link. Do it. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. You're listening to Now This Is Lit, a podcast about Star Wars books, the people who make them, and the readers who just can't get enough of them. I'm your host, Meg Dowell. I use she, her pronouns. And today, it's been a long time coming. We're finally talking about Star Wars, The High Republic, Convergence. This adult novel came out in November. Why are we talking about it now? Because life sometimes doesn't happen the way you think it will. And discussions about Star Wars books get put on hold. But I'm so glad that we finally got to have this discussion. Becca from Tarkin Top Shelf joins me to talk about a really fantastic book. I hope that you think our discussion is as fantastic as I did. Here we go. This is fun because we've talked before, you and I, on a podcast, yes, but not this podcast. So,
oh, this is the other one now. Okay,
this is the other one.
Oh my goodness, so many podcasts.
So many podcasts. The fun thing, though, is that we get to talk about you. Still, we get to talk about not just your Star Wars journey, like last time, but your Star Wars book journey. Which, I mean, it's all connected. But, so let's do that. Let's talk about Star Wars, your journey from the first Star Wars book you ever read to your podcast to where we're at now. Walk me through how that went.
Oh, wow. Okay. Books. Books didn't probably come into my fandom for quite some time. I know that's shocking. But then again, you have to remember, I was just a tot when the originals came out. So, right. You know, the originals came out because let's see, this is the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. So I was 8 when that came out. So then it was silence, the dark times for many, many years. So, you know, when I was growing up, I didn't hear about, you know, the Heir to the Empire series and nothing like that. I didn't hear about that stuff until, oh my gosh, our prequel journey came out. So I was already, you know, an adult, I guess the law says I was. I was in my early 20s going into the prequels, or mid 20s-ish, sort of. And I was starting my journey as a parent. So library was a great place to bring the kids, to keep them entertained. And so that's when I started my Star Wars book journey. Because I'd get the kids settled down either with a video, like they had those little rooms for the kids. Oh, yeah. I think they still have them. I don't know. My kids are all in their 20s now. They're technically adults. So, but they had the little room where they could watch a video or like watch like an audio book, you know, where you could read along while you watched whatever was on. So I made sure they all had their things. And of course I'm like, oh, Star Wars. I've always loved Star Wars, and prequels are out. So I think my first novel was at the library, and I believe it was Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, perfect.
And ever since then, like nothing has really topped Matthew Stover's Revenge of the Sith for me. I'm sorry. I know, really bad. But I'm like that though, because my go-to Star Wars film is A New Hope, and it's where I started. So I guess it kind of all just, you know, intertwines together, right? Yeah. It makes sense. So I would say Revenge of the Sith is my comfort, my go-to novel. I've read that one so many times. Love it. So yeah, and after that, it was just like one thing after another, because then I was really hooked into the prequel era. So anything that was coming out then after the prequels were done, all the prequel series type novels, like there was Jedi Trials, which I know didn't really get a lot of love, but I loved it.
I love that book.
Love that book. Labyrinth of Evil, things like I couldn't get enough of what was going on in Anakin's life, right? Because it was all about like rendezvousing with Padme, like somewhere that's got to happen. Then the Clone Wars happened on Cartoon Network, and I'm not talking about the ones in the micro series or mini series. I'm talking about, you know, the full seven season one. You know, so yeah, so I got it there. They didn't really have some, but there is, I believe it's think there's the Gambit or something and something like The Siege. And I think there's a lot of Anakin and Padme in between there, and they're trying to kind of be together without Bail or Obi-Wan getting the hint. And it's kind of funny because we all know deep down they know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that was where I was stuck with. But yeah, so we really started there, so I guess I owe it to my kids
Oh.
for the books. I guess that's great to say, right? Good old library. And then obviously one thing leads to another. You start working with other outlets and fandoms. First I started on the blogs, the official blogs, Hyperspace membership. That's where that started. Fanfic came about. And then formulating your own podcast and really focusing on books and book reviews. And so it all kind of bled into one another. As you grow, new things happen. So yeah, it started a long time ago, but not too far away.
I love to ask people that, especially the first time here, because it fascinates me how everyone's journey to discovering Star Wars books and kind of really getting into them is different. And I love it because no one's stories are exactly the same. Except you and I do have one similarity, which was the library was also my gateway into Star Wars books because I went through, I don't remember how old I was, but it had to have been before Revenge of the Sith came out because I went through my phase where I'd grown up watching Star Wars. My dad is a huge Star Wars fan, so we always had it on. I'd seen it, but I was like, I want to watch all the movies by myself. I want to absorb these stories. I want to watch them all. And I got to Attack of the Clones, and I was like, Dad, ready for the next movie? And he's like, there isn't one. Let's go to the library and find some books.
Oh, and that is like the most disappointing thing to hear. Like, what do you mean there are no more?
Oh,
how can that be?
It was devastating. I was like, what do you mean they're married and now we don't have any other story yet?
Right. I know it was. Yeah. The whole going back to waiting 3 years, but I really shouldn't say that because now how long has it been since we had a Star Wars movie?
Oh man, a long time.
Right. But we do have what's called live stream, which we can watch it through Disney Plus, and everything's right at your fingertips. As I think Dave said many times over Celebration, he plugged Disney so much by saying, but hey, if you want to watch it, it's all right there on Disney Plus. It's all right there for you. And I would just giggle because I'm thinking, as a young person, because I'm not young anymore, but as a young person to be able to have it like that, they're so lucky.
Yeah.
I had to go digging for my VHSs or my DVDs, you know what I mean? Or go rent one.
All right. Well, even like, at some point we got to where we had the Clone Wars, but for so much of Star Wars existing, there were not like, if you're just coming into your Star Wars fandom now, which if you are, love that you're here. There is constant Star Wars. Like there are constantly books. Every few months or so we get another show, or you go to Disney Plus and it's everything that has ever been made that Star Wars for the most part is there. You can watch it whenever you want. We didn't have that.
No.
And there weren't new things constantly happening. Like, definitely not to this scale. And I always am like, sometimes I don't even remember what that's like anymore. So I try to remember to be grateful, especially in those moments where I'm like, there are 6 books coming out. There's too much, never too much. Never too much. We are grateful that we have reached this point where Star Wars is just everywhere you turn. There it is.
Well, and that's just it. We're at a point now where it's at your fingertips, at a point where you can pause it, go to the bathroom, get something to drink, and come back and hit play again or rewind. And you can watch it anytime because, like you said, we did get the Clone Wars after Revenge of the Sith, but at the time they were just on the TV when they aired.
Right.
There was no like DVD. At the time yet, so you had to watch it when it aired, or if it was going to repeat or whatever.
Yeah.
And once you watched it, that was it. You couldn't pause it then and rewind it then.
Right.
It wasn't a thing. It wasn't even an option.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a thought. Like now it's like, it's incredible to me. It's just like, it's mind blowing that we could do all these things that we couldn't do before. That's going to be the only thing now when we go to see like a Star Wars film, you can't pause it. So don't drink anything. Don't eat anything. Fast. You have to fast in order to go to see a Star Wars film. But yeah.
Oh, it's so exciting that Star Wars is just never going to end. I I just think that's really cool. I'm not a believer in like we need a Star Wars break. Never, never.
We've already had one, I think. I mean, I think since, Rise of Skywalker, that was what, 2019, it's now 2023. We probably won't get a film until what, 2025. I'm just assuming. I don't know
Hmm.
if that's definite or not, but
Yeah,
everything else will be on Disney Plus for right now. But that's a pretty long stretch
yeah,
for this, like this time and era to go
yeah,
without a franchise film, you know. So it is weird, but it is good, I think, too, because I think what they're doing, at least their plan for what they want to do, I think it's good. It's a clean slate, if that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
good to Star Wars has really happened in eras, and I think in every one they're trying something different. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with the movies now because they are like trying this thing where they're not locking themselves into a trilogy. Not that there's anything wrong with the trilogies that we've gotten, but they're doing this like let's try just these one-off films, this one story. Really looking forward to
Mm-hmm.
that. Seeing what they do with that, just because other than the few films that we've gotten that have not been part of a specific trilogy, we really haven't had a lot of that. So to see them focusing on that and kind of like I don't mind that it might be a few more years if not more, just because like I would rather them take the time, really work on the story, work on like what the story you want to tell and where you want to go with it. I'm good with that. We have like we just said, we have plenty of Star Wars to hold us over until then.
Oh yeah, we're definitely not hurting for Star Wars story in any medium either, if you think about it. I mean, the comics are
Oh,
coming out like nonstop.
oh my
Like
goodness.
you said, books are like every other month or every couple months. And then we also get, animation, and we get live action. So what's there to complain about? It's always there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can wait. I can wait.
Yeah. You know
Yeah.
what we don't have to wait on though is more books, including The High Republic.
Oh my gosh. I just want to say I absolutely love the High Republic because, again, going back to what I just said, the whole clean slate. I like getting these stories. Yes, they do to some level, they do connect to what we already know, but they're
Mm.
so fresh. They're
Yeah.
so new. Everything, it's like you said, it's a different era. So
Yep.
everything can be different. It doesn't have to be what we've already seen.
Yeah.
And it's not.
No.
It's just a different time in the galaxy all around, with politics, with religion, with the Force, with the Jedi. And it's just a great time to discover new things. And you don't even need to know anything about Star Wars to dive
No.
into this era.
No.
I think it's great. I think it's great.
Yeah. I know of people who had never read a Star Wars book in their life or weren't even really they wouldn't consider themselves like beyond a casual Star Wars fan and they picked up Light of the Jedi when it came out, this brand new series and they're like, I love Star Wars books. I would like to consume them all now. Um
Yeah. Yeah.
it's truly amazing how the High Republic and all of these books and these stories have really opened up a new way for people to discover the books and Star Wars overall. I never because I remember the day that Light of the Jedi came out and it was trending on Twitter, which is not like a huge thing, but to see that happening and to be like so many people have eyes on this new thing that they're doing or that they're trying because at the time it really was completely experimental just in the sense that like they wanted to do this publishing initiative that they hadn't done at least the way that they wanted to do it before. There have been different Star Wars series and things that they've done in books before, but to kind of say like we want to do this ongoing initiative that's adult novels and young adult novels and comics and manga and all these things, and seeing it as successful as it is it warmed my heart so much to know that not everyone, I would say the vast majority of Star Wars fans, if you think of everyone in the world, may not read the books or may have read one or two books, but it aren't like, oh, I need to read every single book that comes out. I think we're a lot rarer than you think we are, having to read everything. We love it. But to see like so many people kind of drawn to it through the books and like especially when you see like the High Republic panels and how everyone is there and they're doing their cosplay and everyone's so excited and they just want to meet the authors and thank them for their stories. I love that. I
Yeah.
didn't know I knew Star Wars had that effect on people, but to see it like that is just like a book did that. That's
Right.
so
No,
cool.
when you put it like that's very like it's impactful. Like if you think
Yeah.
about that, what an impact that a book could do that. A book. Something
Yeah.
that you literally have to use your imagination while you read it. Because you don't know the places. A lot of times with the species, you don't know them either. So you create them in your mind, just based on the descriptions that are on words, that are in word on paper with words, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. And to listen to a Star Wars book now, it's like an audio drama. No
Yeah.
matter, I mean, even though there are certain ones that are audio drama, like most of the Star Wars books now, they're narrated with all different voices. There's sound effects in the background. Like, wow, it's so awesome.
It really is. I love Star Wars books because I like audiobooks are probably like my primary like way to consume books at this point, just
Sure.
because there's so much to read and it's faster because you can do other things. You know, you can read an audiobook while you're raking the leaves outside. I don't know. But um all audiobooks that are not Star Wars are so boring in comparison. Like they're fine. They're great.
Yes.
But like
Yes.
they don't have the music, they don't
Right.
have the voice acting, they don't I'm like I don't think we appreciate as much as we should how amazing they are. Shout out to audiobooks. We have to do an episode on those at some point because they are so just they're so unique in the realm of like all the audiobooks that exist. I love them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly. Because really, to me, every single one of them, in a sense, is an audio drama.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So hands off to all those people that work so hard to create that for our joy of listening.
And I love that, you know, because with a lot of the Legends books that they did audiobooks for, a lot of them were the abridged versions, just because that's
Yes.
just how it was then. And now we get an audiobook for every single Star Wars book that comes out. That is, we're so lucky. We really,
We
really
really
are.
are. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Just fantastic. And again, I mean, if there's someone looking to get started in Star Wars, even just in literature, I think you could start here and not need to know anything. I mean, I really think this could be like your clean slate of getting into Star Wars.
Mm.
And I think it's just fantastic. Such a very colorful, not just world building, but characters. The characters are so different in these stories and in this era versus the Jedi that you see on screen, because they're allowed to be. They're they're so allowed to be different and unique and to actually relish in their specific talents and not back them down and not kind of bury them, but actually expound on them
Yeah.
and get better at it. In the Jedi that we see in the prequels and and what we get to see in the original, which aren't many, it's Luke. It's Luke.
It's Luke.
They're not like that.
No.
They're not supposed to seek adventure, or nothing like that, where in this era they do, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's not frowned upon, so it's totally different, totally different.
Yeah. I love the Jedi in the High Republic just because, it's like the way that they're free to even describe the Force or what the Force looks like or feels like to them. Like we've never really gotten that before. And like all of a sudden we pick up like Light of the Jedi and it's like the Force is a song. Like what?
And we're like, what? Yeah, exactly. What do you mean? Oh god, it was great. Oh, and it also makes you feel like, okay, Anakin was born at the wrong time.
Yeah. Oh man, he would have thrived. He would have
Right, and it would
thrived
have
in
not
my
been frowned upon. It would have been okay. Yeah, I think about that all the time.
Oh, Anakin, you could have lived a whole other life.
Yep, yep. We could have totally avoided this whole mess with the Empire. It wouldn't, because it wouldn't have been him.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
I'm just saying. Yeah. This is what I mean. We have to have those what if stories, See?
Oh, we do. We do. We need more of those. Oh, come on, Star Wars. Let's go.
Exactly.
All right. So, when this episode comes out, the book we're talking about today, which is Convergence, has been out for a minute. But listen, time has no meaning, and we are here. And this book is fantastic. It was the first adult novel released in phase 2 of the initiative. And I like to bring this up because it's hard to think of, like, having read everything that came before this book. It's hard to have the mindset of, like, if I'd never read anything else in the High Republic, would this book make sense to me? But I like to believe that because it's sort of, in a way, a prequel to phase 1, which I know is confusing if, like, you're not following they do follow they are following the normal, quote unquote, normal Star Wars, go be in the present, go backwards, go forward again, which is fine. It works.
It works.
Do you think that if someone were to pick up Convergence as their first introduction to the High Republic, does it work? Like, does the era do the things that they set up in this book? Would it, like, be a good enough introduction to the era if you never had anything else before it?
I love that question. And actually, Mark and I discussed this on our podcast
I love it.
with Zoraida, actually. Yes. And I say yes, because it is so completely out of the norm for Star Wars. And I mean that in a good way, because it's really, like, if you are one of those fans that have enjoyed the politics, like if you love Andor, Convergence is for you.
Oh, yeah.
And I cannot stress that enough, because it really is like an Andor series, but wrapped in a different time. Here's the thing. It doesn't even, like Andor, it doesn't even have to be Star Wars, because that's how Andor feels, right? It's this political drama sci-fi, right? And it doesn't necessarily, like, if you didn't know it was Star Wars, that would be okay, because you don't really have to know. And that's how I feel about this, because Convergence is hugely political. You see two different sides, possibly a third side if you count the Jedi. And then, you get these two worlds that are completely at odds with each other. And it's the newer generation that's like, enough's enough. How are we going to fix this? This is terrible. Because, like we get in our Mandalorian series, where we hear Bo-Katan talking about, Mandalorians are stronger when they're with each other or together, versus always fighting off one another because of different beliefs and different factions. That's basically what this is about. And it's got everything. It's got, like I said, it's got the politics, it's got intrigue, it's got, people playing two different sides, so you got that shadiness going on. You've got lots of action, and then you've got the love story going on. So you've got every theme possible going on in one book. And I think it's a beautiful starting point, honestly, because it gives you a taste of what's going on in two worlds, but it's not only here, the same type of stuff is going on galactic wide. So, and it's just a good way to to get your toes wet in what's going on. And yeah, I think if you wanted to just really get started, because like you said, the original format of Star Wars is to start in the middle, then go to the beginning, and then finish at the end. And they're following that. But if you wanted to start it like most people today, when they're going into Star Wars, they start it with episodes 1 through 9. You could start here.
It's a great starting point.
It is a great starting point. And to me, it's one of the best High Republic stories that we have, I think, because it has a bit of everything in one book.
Yeah.
And wonderful characters.
I think this is definitely, like, I haven't really worked out in my head, like, if I have a favorite High Republic story, which one it might be. But the beginning of this book is definitely my favorite start to a High Republic story that we have so far, because it's just, the tension is like, I remember reading it and sitting, and my shoulders are like all the way up here. Like, I can't. And like like, you get the stakes right away. You're like, if anything slightly goes wrong, everything explodes, which is exactly what happens.
Yep.
And I love Star Wars stories that could technically, if you took some names out and things, could exist kind of in any universe, because it does make it kind of feel like maybe a little bit more comfortable. Not that Star Wars books are not you can pick one up and you can read it, and with a lot of them, you're going to be fine. It's not the case for every single one, but definitely with this one, like you said, you can pick it up and you're good because you understand, okay, the two sides, this is the world that we're in, this is what's going on, this is what the stakes are. And we know right away that if anything goes wrong, there's just going to be this chain reaction of equally terrible things. And I just love Zoraida's writing in general. I've read a few of her things that are not Star Wars, which I think everyone should do. I think if you like a Star Wars author, go support their other books, because they likely have many of them or some of them, and they're equally good. Just because it's not Star Wars doesn't mean it's not good. And I picked this up and started reading it, and I was like, she's just so good at telling stories. And we're just so lucky to have her in Star Wars. I mean, this is also not her first Star Wars book, or her first Star Wars story, so that also helps, that she's able to tell the story that doesn't necessarily feel like Star Wars all the time, but it is, and she knows how to do it, and it's great.
Yeah, and she really does. And she has such a love for the characters. Like she really, really is an Axel fan.
Oh,
Really is. And I am too. And it's so funny because you're not supposed to be, but you can't help it. And I don't know why that is, but there's, and it's not even about his looks. I mean, it is, but it's not. There's something about him that draws you in.
Yeah.
And you can't look away, and you try, but you still can't. And then he's got this awesome droid, such a cute droid. Yes. So it's like, okay, he's winning me over now because he likes his droid. He's very good to his droid. And, it's just, you just can't help yourself but to like the bad boy, right?
Exactly.
And she laughed at me because I'm like, I'm a little old to like this type of character, but here I am. And she goes, well, that's good. I go, yeah, it shows you that you know what you're doing because I got sucked right into it.
Yeah.
Totally. So she really is, she does have a handle on what she's doing. She obviously knows Star Wars very well. So for those out there wondering, yes, she does. And she gets the themes and she gets what has to be done here. The beauty, and you were talking about it at the top of the beauty of this total initiative here is that they actually sat together for hours. They still do. These writers or architects, as I think Daniel Jose Older likes to call them, architects, they love to, they really work things out. They talk about all of it. Nothing gets put in print that hasn't been discussed with all of them.
Right.
So there's no hiccups. Everything lines up, and it's so beautiful. It's just phenomenal what they've been able to create because it is an intricate puzzle. It really is. Yeah. And it's beautiful. There's been no mix-ups at all. Everything plays well together. So, but yeah, I mean, she blew my mind in this book because it's one thing for us because like we've been talking, we both have book podcasts. So Mark has such a, my co-host, he has such a thing for the Padme books because he loves the political intrigue. So this book just really he was like just frothing at the mouth, right? Like, give me more of this. And it is cool to see this because again, other than Rogue One and Andor and the prequels, yes, they really are very, politically focused, but I think Andor's more heavily saturated in it, right?
Yeah.
And Rogue One too. So we really only get two things. And even I would actually say the Bad Batch season 2 was very heavily political for an animation, right? So they're really starting to get that going here. And I think this book is a really well done with that. And I think its sister book, if you want to call it that, Cataclysm, actually tied up quite a bit from this.
Yeah.
And actually really dug into the political part even more. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, this book, this one and Catalyst, or I'm sorry, Cataclysm, Catalyst, that's another Star Wars book. See? But anyway, they really, I think, raised the stakes for going into phase 3. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. As we're talking about this book, if you read it and you're like, I want more. Good news. There's already another book.
There's a
This
ton.
is the benefit of us doing this discussion when we're doing it, is there's already another one that like really continues, because the way that they're doing it with this phase is like the adult novel characters, you kind of get them in this book and then in Cataclysm. I always call it Catalyst. I know that's not what it's called, but
But I
the
did
names
that
are
too,
just
so
too
that's okay.
names are too similar. But Cataclysm is the continuation of the story you get here. Because if you, and it ends on a cliffhanger, and if you're like, I need more, there's already more, and we will talk about, we'll be talking about that book as well, because that's what we do here. You mentioned Axel. This boy just you want to hate him, but you just can't. Were you suspicious of him from the beginning? Because I'm going to be honest, I was not. I really believed that, like, I knew that he was doing some bad stuff. Like, she makes that very clear in the beginning, but like when you get to the end and you figure out what he's really doing, I was like, okay, like I knew you were doing bad things, but not like that.
I was, only because of the, I don't know how to word this properly. I'm trying to go with it, but the way he was really, I guess, not emotionally, but whenever he was around Gela, which I love her, he couldn't help himself but to really pick at her brain, really probe about the Jedi. And I'm like, he's way too questiony. Like, what's up? So I think I just had this feeling that he was up to something, even though I know deep down he has it bad for her.
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about that too, because
he just, and he was fighting it so hard, but there's only so much you can do to fight that, right? But he was just too, he really was. He was too questiony, like,
yeah,
and it's like, something's up here. And she, she wanted to believe that, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't, go that way. Yeah, I'm using the whole Ray line with Kylo Ren. Ben, please don't go that way. And Axel was going that way. Yeah, so I kind of had a feeling, only because he just asked too many questions. He just did, and not the right ones either.
No.
Like, Gala, what's your favorite color? What was your favorite book growing up, Gala? Not like that. He was asking, specific questions that didn't really pertain to her in general.
Yeah, see, like that's one of those things I didn't pick up on that, like you did. And now that you're talking about it, I'm like, oh, yeah, that was right there. And that is why I love books and I love Star Wars, because like sometimes you're reading them and you're like, oh, and I just missed it. But I love it because it was there the whole time. Let's talk about their relationship, because the most interesting thing to me about their connection is that they're just so drawn to each other, and regardless of what their motives might be, they just cannot help it. Like there is that connection that's there. And I think it's both of them. It has to be, because Gal is a Jedi, and part of being a Jedi is like you are trying not only to help the galaxy, but you have a tendency to see the good in people, and you want to believe that people can be better than they are. And Axel just, I think like you kind of said, he knows what he's doing. But also he's Axel, so like he's gonna see her and be like, well, like I don't have great motives here, but also what if?
Right. And that's just it. He didn't have great motives, but he couldn't help himself.
No.
And after a while, you just kind of go with it, because he just, he was into her and he was feeling it, and he could pick up. I mean, come on, they are human. They both are. So they could feel, there was definitely pheromones going on both sides, and this is it though. It's a different time for the Jedi. So Gela, it's not bad per se that she's having feelings, right? She's allowing those feelings to flow through her, to absorb them, and then she lets them pass, because that's how the Jedi of this era do things. And it's like, okay, she's allowing herself to feel. And she really did. And I think it's great because I'm not saying that they're meant to be together. I'm not saying that. I'm not. I want to, but I'm not. Because I do believe, though people might be involved in a bad thing, like you said, and have different motivations, and yet other things happen during those motivations that kind of change your perception of what you're doing, where you second guess, should I be doing this? Because if I don't do this, but I still keep going with how I feel, I could end up doing this instead and actually be with this person. There's that chance. And then we could, be better off and not do the bad thing and hurt each other. Right. But, I do believe people can be redeemed. I'm full on with that, because that's what Star Wars, that's one of Star Wars' biggest themes, right? Yep. Hope, redemption, all that stuff, forgiveness, all of it. So, and I think being a Jedi, Gela sees that, okay, yeah, he has some issues and he's shady, but deep down, there's goodness within him. I just got to dig deep enough and bring it out. She sees the boy that needs to be fixed up, right? We've all been there. I can fix him.
Oh, no.
Right? Yes. This is what's going on, only in a Star Wars world. Yeah. That's how I see it. So even though she wants to believe that, they could be good friends, and I'm thinking, Gela, it's not friends. He doesn't want friends. No. Though they say it, it's like, no, but we'll go with it. That's what you guys want to call it. So I do feel that they both feel for each other. And I think they like to use the friend term because it's just safe for both parties at this point. And I understand that. But the feelings are deeper. There's definitely, little sparkles and rainbows and butterflies going on in certain moments. But, he's Axel, so he blows it. So, but she kind of does too, because she lets her guard down. Yep. And as a Jedi, you really shouldn't do that. Nope. But, she trusted him. So, and we've all been there, right?
Sure have.
Yeah. Why did he have to do that? And why does he got to be so good looking? And we should all know, because his name is Axel. Yeah. I mean, the only Axel I can think of is Axl Rose, Guns N' Roses. Come on now. Like, really? Yeah. Sorry. Welcome to the jungle. Here's where we are. Sorry.
I love podcasting. You never know where it's going to go, and that's why it's beautiful, and that's why we keep doing it.
Great character.
Yeah, and I do love that at the end of this book, there are consequences. Like he makes the choices he makes, and at least for now, he's not getting away with it. So I want to say so many things about Cataclysm, and I won't do that. You're going to have to go read that next book if you haven't yet, and wait for a discussion on that. But I do love that, like, he does have that, like, oh, I did this thing and now I'm gonna in some ways have to pay for it, because that's how it should be. He has to learn somehow that the choices that we make lead us down different paths, and you gotta figure out what you're doing, what your motivations are.
I agree. Even though, you could say he's a child born with a silver spoon in his mouth, he still needs to pay the consequence for his actions. Because I think he's used to getting out of jams all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not going to really, I mean, even with the cliffhanger, like, I think he's kind of played his last get out of jail free card, literally. So, yeah. And he's not happy about it. And that ending, I'm going to just say, really scared me, because here's this guy that really, like, you really felt he had it bad for Gela. And at the end, he's so angry. And you're like worried for her. You're like, oh no, don't touch my Gela. Like, because he is angry. Because he's not at the point where he's taking accountability just yet. Yeah.
Just wait, it gets better.
It does.
We have to also talk about what I will say is probably my favorite couple in Star Wars at the moment. And I we have not gotten enough of them and may not, and that's upsetting me. But Ziri and Fontu, like I I'm here for it. We don't get much like marriage of convenience in Star Wars, and here we are getting it. And but you know what's gonna happen. You know that like they're gonna make this deal and they're gonna be like, we have to unite our worlds, and then they're gonna fall in love. You know that's gonna happen. But when it happens, it's still you're like, I love it. I love it so much. Because it's different. It's a different way to we've gotten a lot of different kinds of love stories in Star Wars, and like to get this one, and the way that it's done just makes me really glad that it happened this way. And I don't know what it is. I think it's their wedding. I think like the fact that they have possibly the most memorable wedding in Star Wars. Maybe that's not true.
Oh my God, it was fantastic. And I love the fact that you mentioned it's a marriage of convenience. And I love this because I think we really haven't seen anything like it yet. I think we may get something close to it, except for the fact that Ziri and Fantu are enough that are lucky enough that they actually do fall in love.
Mhm.
I think the only thing we've seen comparable to it, except for that last part, is Mon Mothma and her husband. That was basically an arranged, convenient marriage based on their culture from where they're from.
That's right.
And that's probably, and it didn't work out well. We know it didn't. She's not happy. He's not happy. Their daughter's not happy. It's like very miserable, very doom and gloom in that family, right? But here we get this marriage of convenience to unite these two worlds, to bring happiness and prosperity, and now love, which wasn't even in the mix, right?
No,
not at first.
No.
And I love the dynamic because in my head, I'm picturing Ziri. I'm picturing the princess from Brave, from Disney.
Yes.
Because she's just like her, feisty, fierce, out there. I'm gonna take care of this all by myself. Rips off the shoes, running the dress, doesn't care, hair's flowing. Who cares how I look? I'm gonna do this, And then Fantu is basically Aladdin.
Oh man,
I love it. Like I love it. I loved it. Just loved it. Only Fantu is the Aladdin as if he was in Jasmine's position in the beginning, correct? Okay. Yeah. So that's how I see it. And they were awesome. And this wedding was spectacular. Mark and I probably spend a good 15 minutes talking about this part because I mean, who says their vows in the middle of like shooting people down, right?
Right.
I'm just saying. And then the best moment, the I love you part, I'm thinking this outshines the Leia and Han moment completely. I'm sorry for those Leia and Han fans. I apologize, but I really don't. But yet I do, because until you read it, you don't see how awesome it is.
Right.
I mean, and can we talk about how she just can, literally pick up the dress and she's got her blaster like on a like on her hipster thing, like on her leg. I'm like, who does that on their wedding day? Ziri does.
Yes. Yes. She's always ready.
Ready to go, man. Yep. Just hold that thought, hun. I'll be right back. Just like, wow, you go get them. So yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Just what a great scene, I don't know what the influence was on that, but it was fantastic. By far, probably the best wedding scene. And I would love to see something like that play out on screen, like somewhere, because it's just too good not to.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten a ton of weddings in Star Wars just in general. Right. You have like the big ones, but like other than that, not really. So like to add another one and it's this, it's just like you had to. Like she had the opportunity to make this happen and we went there. And I can't get over it. I think about it so much more than I should.
Because it's just not realistic. That's why. It's fantastic. Because again, it really is the bride's day, right?
Sure is.
Sure is. And she makes it so. I'm just saying. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no. Yeah. again, just I love the fact that even though she's in the dress, she wears the pants in the family or the pants in the relationship. 100%. And he's okay with that.
Yep.
He's so okay with that.
Yeah.
That is what draws him into her.
Yeah.
Because she is so completely different from himself, from his mother's, from any woman that he's probably ever met.
Yeah.
And she's a dynamo. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'm on board. Sign me up. Yeah, I love it.
And like from the beginning, like even before, you know, they're falling in love when they're just meeting and things like that, like there's something about their dynamic that you just know they're going to work. And you know, like they're going to go through a lot because of the reason that they're getting married, which is they're just trying to salvage their worlds and make everything peaceful. And it's Star Wars, so that's never going to happen forever, but we can wish that it would. And their relationship, just from the moment we meet them, I'm like, I need more of this. And, you know, phase 2, unfortunately, is a little bit shorter. So like we're not going to get as much, but it works. And again, as we said with Axel, if you like me are obsessed with this relationship, don't worry. There's more of it in Cataclysm. And I think their dynamic there is just as great as in this one, because you know they're still going through a lot of things, and it's so good.
It is so good, and I don't think it's going to end there. At least I don't hope not. I think we could go back to it based on the way. I don't want to go into the book, but based on the way it ends in Cataclysm, I think there's still possibilities to see them in the future. So
yeah. There's always hope. And I mean, like, the other thing is, like, we as fans, you know, we don't make all the decisions, but we do have one route of influence, which is you just tell the authors, you just tell everyone in charge how much you love these characters, and then they know that they have to give us more at some point. That's not always how it works, but you never know.
You just got to keep stressing how much you love Star Wars, because I mean, not to go off the rails at all, but it is sticking with the High Republic content. The more you tell them how much you love any of these characters, the more you're going to see them in other things. Like, hello, I want to say Ventress. Wow, Vernestra going into Acolyte, and that's, you know, that was just announced a little over a week ago at, you know, Star Wars Celebration. So, I mean, live action, the High Republic character that we've read about, like, say what now? So excited. So keep telling the authors, other creators, how much you love it, and you never know where they're going to show up. So
it is like we knew, or we'd been told that the Acolyte was going to have some connection to the High Republic. We didn't really know what it was. We knew about like when it might take place. No one ever said anything about, oh, you know, this character that was in these books, we're going to put her in a TV show. Like, excuse me.
I was dying, like, say what, we're going to actually get one of the characters that we know? Like, what? Wait, seriously? Yeah, no, that was a huge moment. Huge moment. And what a fantastic character to give us on screen too. I mean, they're all great. Don't get me wrong. I'm just like, I was just so excited. I'm like, wait a minute, Vern? Seriously?
Yes.
Like, wow. Very, very exciting.
She was like one of the early characters that we met. You know, I forget that the High Republic has been going for over 2 years. It doesn't feel like that, but like, no, here we are.
Scary. It's scary to think about.
But we get it all the way through 2025, at least how we know it now. Like, there's no one has ever said, like, just because the initiative is over doesn't mean we can never get any High Republic ever again. What I really want is, you know, they've been doing the High Republic this way, where we get these phases, and within these phases there are these waves, and we get these books and these comics and things. But I would really love the High Republic to become an era just like any other era in Star Wars, where, like, if they want to do a High Republic book set in the High Republic just randomly whenever, like, they can. Like, I would love that. Because I don't think, like, so many readers love these characters. So many Star Wars fans love these books that, like, we don't want them to stop. You can slow it down. You don't have to do 6 books a year, or it's more than that, but you don't have to do that many books. I do love, though, that in phase 3, they're kind of spreading things out a little bit more so that the phase is going to last longer and books are going to come out with a little bit more time in between them, because I'm not complaining. I love these books, but it can feel like a lot. Like this phase, this wave just started like a couple months ago. And like we've already gotten all of these things, and it can feel like it is. I know so many people who are like, I'm behind, and I'm like, but I understand why that can feel like not great. So maybe it's a good thing. I'm really looking forward to phase 3, and like it's just based on like the book titles and authors alone. I'm like, let's go. I don't know how this is going to end, but I don't mind that. I don't want to know. Yeah.
Pain. Lots of pain. Lots and lots of pain.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we're going, right? Yeah. And, it is what it is. I mean, it has to line up with what they're going to be doing with Acolyte. So
Right.
I understand that. And, if you think about it, in this era, there has been a lot of pain. There has been a lot of sorrow, and there's a lot of fear. And yeah, because we need to know what happens that makes the Jedi who they are when we finally do get to see them in the prequel trilogy, right?
Right.
So it makes sense that they would do this. So yeah, there's gonna be, as much as there's happy moments, because we do have a few, and they're really grand when they happen, but it's followed by a lot of heartache. And the Jedi are grappling with that and figuring out, what they need to do to not only, be better for, because right now they're not these warriors like we get, these soldiers like we get in the prequels. They're not like that.
No.
And I actually love seeing how they are right now. They get to really explore who they are.
Yeah.
And what the Force is, what the Force means, how they're really supposed to live symbiotic with the Force, right? So it's just, it's very spiritual.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying that. I really am. I mean, I could do without so much pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I get it. A good story comes with sorrow and sacrifice. So yeah. Bring it on.
Yeah. It's gonna be really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. I'm excited. I really, really am. I'm looking forward to Path of Vengeance. I haven't started that yet.
Same.
It's very thick. I'm looking
Yeah,
at it right now. It's very thick. It kind of scares me, Scott. Just saying.
Yeah. What is
Love
he
the
gonna do
cover.
to us? I'm a little bit like, I've already been hurt by you multiple times.
Yeah, exactly. How much more can you take from me emotionally? Yeah. And that's just it. Like we're exploring not just Jedi, but like the path of the open hand. There's so much going on there. How does that turn into what we get in phase 2, which was the Nile? I mean, sorry,
Right.
phase 1, which was the Nile, right? Phase 1,
Right.
phase 2. Yeah, phase
Yep.
1.
Yep.
Sorry. I remember we had to go in the middle and meet in the beginning, then go back to the end. It's all over the joint. But yeah, so it's interesting to see where they go and how they become what they become and what we already know. So yeah, I'm all in. I'm invested. I love, and you mentioned something at the top of the show. And this is what I want to talk about because I do love it. You said sometimes it just starts, fandom can just start with a book, and how powerful that is. The images of pictures flooding my timeline from Star Wars Celebration of cosplay from book characters just warms my heart so much because it's from a book.
Yeah.
It's not from a film. It's from a book. Someone actually made some sort of cosplay of carrying a leveler. And I was like,
no.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And I know how creepy that is, but I love it. But I mean, come on. It's fantastic. I mean, these are book characters. And the only thing that to me that's ever came close to that is when Galaxy's Edge opened and featured prominently Vi Marati, who was just a book character from Black Spire.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is just amazing. What an amazing time to be a book fan in Star Wars.
It's so we are just, we're having a great time, and there's just Like it's only April and there are so many books still to come this year alone. And we don't even know what's happening past this year. We don't know what's coming. And I love that. And they're doing a great job. I mean, knowing like how knowing what little I know about how publishing actually works, like having to work on all these projects and have everything planned out, and they do such a great job, and that's why we're here talking about them, because I think they deserve to be celebrated. I mean, you're not going to, it's Star Wars. There are a lot of stories in Star Wars. You're not going to fall in love with every single one. That's not possible, but just to be able to sit here and celebrate the books and the impact they have on all of us and the creativity they bring out in people with the cosplay and things like that, and just the joy that they bring. I will never just stop praising them, just because they just offer so many stories to all of us to enjoy, to read, to talk about with each other. I've met so many people just through talking about books, with other people who love to talk about books. I can't imagine not having that in my life. So I'm so glad that all these Star Wars books, not just the High Republic, but all of them are continuing, and we all just get to keep talking about them. It makes me happy.
Oh, absolutely. And as much as all of us enjoy the films, the live action, the animation, and
Mm.
just being able to visually consume our media, right? I feel that most times you get more out of the book because
Mm.
you can actually get the inner workings of what's going on within the characters.
Yeah.
You really understand what makes them tick, what their motivations are. So I think there's just so much more you can convey in a book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they put so much work into it. They're
Yeah.
so organized. They really are working at in such a way where it's such an assembly line. They
Yeah.
all work together. There's such communication going on. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable what they've been able to do, and it's just amazing, amazing work. And I hope after they finish this era, they decide to do another one.
I would love that.
I'm just giving them some more
I'd
work.
love that. We need a, if anyone, if anyone actually working on these books is listening, which is not the case, listen, we need more. Like the other thing is, the High Republic as a publishing initiative was so experimental at the beginning, and they've clearly learned so much as they've gone on. And there's,
Yes.
they've so much, it just, you can tell that they're like learning as they go in a good way. And, they're still doing that. There's still more High Republic. By the time they're done with this, like they'll have it down. They'll
Right.
know how to do it,
Right.
so they can do it again. And then after that, they can do it again. I would not be
Exactly.
upset.
Like now they can make a whole initiative about the origins of the Jedi, which they're going to have a film
Mm-hmm.
on. So why can't they do a whole era on that? Like a
Yes.
whole series of books on that?
Oh, let's do
Why
it.
not? Why not?
Ugh.
Let's do it.
I mean, not us probably, but
Not
like,
us, but I mean, I would be more than happy to help with some ideas if they want
Yeah,
mine. I'm here. I mean,
listen, you never know.
you just don't.
We'll just say that.
Yeah, you never know. Anything's possible.
So I realized in the middle of this conversation that we were having about books that before we even started recording, I said we were going to talk about The Mandalorian, and guess what we didn't do? So guess what we're going to do now? I know
Oh, the
you're still
Mandalorian. Yes. I'm so
I know
sorry.
you're still processing,
I
and
am.
we don't have to talk in depth about it, but we've now both seen, and by the time this episode has come out, the finale's been out for a while, so don't worry about spoilers, but you don't have to spoil anything. But we've both seen it. Oh, most people have seen it at this point, probably. How are you feeling about the finale? Are you okay?
Thanks for asking. What a great question. No one's asked me that yet. Oh, thank you. I'm I'm emotionally I think drawn, and I think I tweeted out I think I need to lay down
No.
and just process everything.
Oh,
Because things were touch and go there for a minute.
yeah.
It was quite the ride. Well, this whole series has been quite the ride, like
Oh,
this
yeah.
whole season. And I don't get all the, like, there was quite a bit of discourse, and I don't want to go into that because I love to keep things positive. So I don't understand that, because I've loved this season. I
Right.
actually think it was my favorite season
Yeah.
of The Mandalorian, and whatever. I mean, in this finale blows my mind, and I didn't think anything could top the last episode that we got.
Yeah. Right.
Because I was like, wait a minute, we're going here, we're going there. They went there. Oh my gosh, you know. So yeah, I think emotionally, wow, just it really, I think really well done. I think John really did well. You could tell this was mainly John in this entire season.
Yeah.
It was, you know, definitely had a John vibe going through it. Um, but I think Bo-Katan really shined in, and I know you love hearing that.
Yeah, I
I know
do.
she's your girl. And I've loved this season with her, because we get her sporadically throughout the Clone Wars, right? A little bit in Rebels. We've gotten her throughout the Mandalorian here and there. But this season specifically, it was her moment, you know. And I want more of her. If they're listening, any Disney creators are listening, make a Bo-Katan series. Thank
Please.
you. Please. But yeah, she really just, this was her season. She was amazing in every way. Katie Sackhoff, oh my gosh. Give that girl more work. Just so much to go with the Mandalorians, because that's what I wanted, was more lore, more depth on our story, and we got it.
Yes, we did.
And I was very satisfied. That's how I look at it. I mean, that's an easy way to sum it up. I was very satisfied. Yeah.
It's we haven't, like, we've gotten some Mandalorian lore in canon, and it's hard because, like, here's me like wanting to write like a history of Mandalore, and there's a lot in Legends that you're like, yes, you can write that, but are they Legends? It's a whole thing. But like now we're actually getting like, here's the Mandalorian lore that like fits into all these other stories, and that's all I ever wanted, was to know, was to see more Mandalorians. Like, we have not seen that many in the grand scale of Star Wars overall, and here we are getting all these Mandalorians on jetpacks, flying around, fighting in the air. This is everything I ever wanted. I could not have asked for anything more than that. And I'm still like, I'm so happy.
Right?
It was great.
And you're right. I really want to talk about that. We get to see so many different Mandalorians together on screen doing things.
Yes.
Like, blows my mind. Blows my mind. We're seeing them do things that we only got them to, like, only saw them do things in animation, and we're getting to see them doing it in live action. It's like, oh my gosh, you know. And it was just such a beautiful thing. We go to Mandalore. I mean, even though it's in ruins, it was still beautiful to see. We see a mythosaur. I mean, a mythosaur. We see a mythosaur. I can't help myself. And Grogu is just adorable in every way. No one ever better harm one single hair on his head, or I'll be very upset. And he is now, I love it, he is now Din Grogu.
Oh, perfect.
I'm so happy for him. He's got his found family. Like, legally, he's legally adopted. Like, yes, he's got his place. I'm sorry.
I will say, I was not like, Grogu is great. But he's never been like, I've never been the kind of person who just like loses it whenever he shows up. This season ruined me. Like, every time I see him now, I'm like, protect him, please.
Yes. And I think a lot of that has to do with Bo. And I'm saying that because this is the first time, other than Pelly, that we get a nurturing type, you know, woman, motherly figure. And, you know, from the moment we see him sit in her lap, you're like, oh, okay. And even just the talk, walking through Mandalore, about her talking about the Jedi with him, and about Mandalorians, and just all that, and about her, and about his dad, right? You know, did you think your dad was the only Mandalorian? You know, things like just the way, it's a different type of dynamic, right?
Yeah.
We really don't get to see the feminine side with Grogu, and we did with this season. And can I just talk that moment? You know, I really, when the it's not a Star Destroyer, but I'm not good with my whole vehicles. And but coming down, Axe telling him that he's coming in, he's crashing, it's coming in, get out. And the flames come up, and Moff Gideon gets sucked in. Bye, see you later. Sorry. I was very happy about that. I'm not gonna lie. But you get little Grogu protecting mom and dad with the Force. And they look up in this moment of amazement and wonder and fear, with these flames just blowing over them in this invisible force shield. And Grogu's like, don't worry, mom and dad, I got this. It's just such a beautiful moment. I love it. And I'm not shipping Bo and Din by any means. I'm just saying that was it. I mean, he was protecting his daddy and his mama at that moment, and it was just beautifully done. Oh my God. Like, there's just so many beautiful moments. And I really thought the armorer was a spy. And that's my only like confusion in my head, is like, but it was called the Spies, plural. Yeah. I know, obviously, Officer Kane, we get it. We get it. But who else? It was plural.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I've been able to think of is like, are they just talking about like, are they implying that she's not the only Imperial spy?
Well, like, obviously,
yeah. So like, is that
there's obviously more? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
But there has to be somebody else, and all I can think of is that, like, referring to Moff Gideon. I mean, and that's another thing. I know we see him very similar to Phasma, swallowed up by flames, right? But are they really gone? Because let's face it, Beskar is, fire resistant.
Right.
The suit Phasma was wearing is made based on the metals from a Nubian starship, and they're also flame repellent to a degree as well. So are they really gone? Just saying.
Well, yeah, or was that a Gideon clone?
I've been wondering that to myself. Is the real Gideon still, somewhere else? But just so much. But the ending, though, was just superb. They got a little home, just a very humble home, and Grogu gets to nurture both sides, the Force and the Way, and I absolutely love that.
Yes. Do you have any thoughts? Because season 3, not season 4, season 3 wrapped up with a very nice, happy ending. And the show, however, is not over. Where do you see, if you've thought about it at all? Because my first thought when the finale was over, I was like, what happens in season 4?
Right. I mean, that's just it. I think it's based on speculation. How does it go between Bo-Katan and the Armorer rebuilding their Mandalorian covert, right? Yeah. On Mandalore, they have to rebuild all that. There's a lot of work to be had, right? A lot of work needs to be done. And then we both questioned, is Moff Gideon really gone, or was that a clone? Did any of those clones, survive? Is it possible? I don't know. Especially if, one had just enough force to find a way to, kind of keep themselves alive until they can get somewhere to, either get some sort of life force, some oxygen or whatever they need to sustain themselves, right? So there's always that question. And we get also at the end there, before we get the cute little moment of Grogu with the Force and the frogs, which I love, by the way, floating frogs. But we get Carson Teva and Din talking about work, and Din really wants to work with the New Republic, but off the record, so to speak. Depending on the job, because obviously he's bringing Grogu with him. So it needs to be semi-safe, but really, does it really need to be safe? Look what they just did. I'm just saying. I mean, come on, right? Because Grogu at the end really just saved him. But that being said, I think that's just it. I mean, I think we could see Din working off the books, for Carson, for the New Republic pilots and Rangers. And that's a possibility, because that opens up a new door for Grogu too, because he's doing good, yet doing Mandalorian bounty hunter work at the same time, which it kind of goes in that gray line, right?
Yeah.
But yet working with the New Republic, which is supposed to be, the good side, right? You never know whose paths they might cross. I don't know, the
Yeah.
Ghost Crew. I mean,
That
Zeb
would be
is
great.
there. I
He
know.
is. He is.
So, I mean, that's what I see. But like you said, it did end nicely where they could just have this happily ever after, even though we know it's Star Wars,
Right.
not Star Happy Ever After. But I mean, it really could end there. It could if
Yeah.
they wanted to, and they could revisit later if they wanted to.
Yeah.
But I think we'll find that out. What'll happen? I think somehow it's gonna have tie in somehow with Ahsoka. I just have this feeling.
Yeah.
Somehow the lines will meet there. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know what Ahsoka's going to bring other than what we've seen,
Right.
which isn't much, just a trailer, which was beautiful.
It was.
It was very, very beautiful. But I mean, Sabine is a Mandalorian. So there is still the Ren clan. Where are they? Her mother's still around, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And her brother. She has a brother.
Oh,
So is it possible we'll get to see them and those lines will collide and merge with everyone on Mandalore? I don't know. It's a possibility. And why not?
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you have thoughts?
Well, I really I there it could go a lot of different ways. And I think now that they have kind of like given season 3 the ending that they did, they can kind of really do almost anything. Um, I mean, I personally would be totally fine with just an entire season of Bo-Katan in the armor rebuilding Mandalore. Like, if that's all it is and we don't get anything else, I'm down. But I know they got to do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I think we will know maybe more about what the next season could involve after Ahsoka. Like, even if any paths that cross aren't like major things, even if Din and Grogu were to like show up in an episode for some reason or something. Kind of like with Book of Boba Fett, like not that they're gonna have like entire episodes dedicated to them, because I don't know if that works or not. But I think we might have a better idea of where the galaxy is at the end of Ahsoka, to the point where they can then go back to the Mandalorian and be like, we can continue the story of the Mandalorian in whatever this new time period is. Again, we don't know pretty much anything about Ahsoka, the show, so we will see. Yeah, it's going to be a while before season 4, so I'm kind of sad that we're done with Mando for a while. But it's been like, I know it's only been 8 weeks, but it's been pretty great. I love. I mean, it's largely because of Bo-Katan and the Darksaber, but I did really love season 3.
No, I'm right there with you. It's all good. Oh my gosh. And while we're talking, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? We might not even see them again until the movie. That might be where
Oh
they
yeah.
check in on them and tie them in and put them into the next
Hmm.
season. That's always a possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, look how long it's been in between season 2 and season 3.
Oh, that's true.
So I don't know what their plans are. I mean, really, like you said, they could go any way they want with this.
Yeah.
And I, like you, I would be okay if they just want to do a whole season on the rebuilding of Mandalore. I am so down, because I'm saying the armorer needs to get busy and fix that Darksaber. That's all I'm saying.
There you go. I mean, in my opinion, it can be fixed, but
it can be fixed.
I'm not in charge.
No, I'm not either. But I mean, if anyone's going to fix it, it's going to be the armorer.
There you go.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
she should. Yeah.
I think she should too. Yeah. We're just giving her work to do.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Star Wars. It's just constantly great. And circling back to where we started with this whole conversation, which is, look at all the Star Wars we're getting, and just look at how happy it's making us. This has been a great conversation.
It's therapy. Yay. I always say that no matter how terrible my day is going, I put on Star Wars and it lifts my spirits. Or I read Star Wars and it lifts my spirits. So there you go.
Yeah. Oh, this has been fantastic. But I can't let you go before I let you tell everyone where they can find you on the internet.
Oh, let's see. Well, if you want to, I don't know, listen to another book podcast, you can always follow, interact, and subscribe and listen to Tarkin's Top Shelf. And it's at Tarkin's Top Shelf anywhere on social media. So that's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. It's there. So look for us there. If you want to say hi to me, best place is on Twitter or Instagram. I am at YouAreAngelB. Yeah, and just say hi and yeah, let's chat Star Wars. I love it. Anything, even the books, all the books, Legends too, because they're all just as good as the others.
Yes, they are. Thanks so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been great. I appreciate this.
Now This Is Lit is part of the Faraway Fandom Network and is written, produced, hosted, and edited by me. Jose Jimenez designed our podcast art. Keep up with the show on Twitter at Star Wars Lit Pod. And find the show wherever you get your podcasts. You can support the show by subscribing to the Now This Is Lit Substack. It's free unless you want to pay for it. You don't have to, but you can. Also, if you use the link in the show notes, you can get an audiobook from Audible, free, on me. Isn't that fun? For more book reviews and Star Wars Book Celebration, follow Star Wars Book Reviews on Instagram.